The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Welcome to the podcast on Tuesday, the 19th of January, 2021. On the podcast today, Vadim Alexandre, Head of Healthcare and SP Angel, discusses Polarean imaging and Cambridge Cognition. Also on the podcast, Glen Goodman, former ITV News Business correspondent and now the author of The Crypto Trader, covers Bitcoin, Ethereum and Polkadot, and generally chats crypto. Plus, at the end of the podcast, two very important lists for you. The top 5 most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours, and the top 5 most liked read RNSs. Okay, you can check out these lists at voxmarkets.co.uk. Lots for the content there. In fact, Paul Hill is chatting to Katie Potts of Herald Investment Management. He's also chatting to Source Bio Executive Chairman on a video there. The Cambridge Cognition hails a successful year with revenue boost. Article there from Francesca. There's something on Brand Shield. And also, don't forget, our COVID-19 index. Biggest riser there is Gfinity, and just swapped there with Dev Clever Holdings, up 6.8%, 22.75. Gfinity is 5% at 415. It's got to break that resistance line. Biggest faller is it's Way Education, down 6.7%, 38 pence, and Gene Drive 7% as well to 39 pence. Check that out at voxmarkets.co.uk.
Vox Markets is an online community of investors that runs a free mobile and desktop platform that allows you to track news and updates about any UK-listed company, offering RNS push notifications, detailed charts, pricing data, and much more. Find out more at voxmarkets.co.uk/app.
And joining me on the podcast right now is Vadim Alexandre, Head of Healthcare at SP Angel. You all right, Vadim?
How are you doing, Justin?
Yeah, but when I say, are you all right? And I mean that in a deeper sense. It's not just a nicety, a pleasantry we cast off, because you've had COVID-19. I just saw a stat out just now, released by the ONS. Apparently, 1 in 10 people have now had COVID. That's double the figure they thought it was in November. So this new variant is very contagious. As you know, you probably caught that. It really is contagious. And who knows if that's only a sample of the population. So maybe more people, you never know. I mean, you make it false positives on testing. But how are you feeling now? Because, I mean, you had it last week, the week before. I mean, we've heard about long COVID. I mean, what's your thought? Are you over it now or what?
Yeah, so I'd say I'm over it. You know, I'm working, everything's fine. But I can see why people... look, it's just one case, right? It's one anecdotal example. But, there are these like kind of long-term is the wrong word, longer-term effects. Like, for example, you don't feel 100% when you go out for a walk. You come back home pretty quickly after. I can't see myself going out for a half day out of the house. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Not that we should be, it's lockdown. But, you need to get your bit of exercise. Go for a walk for 45 minutes and, you're kind of rushing back home to lie down again. So, it's these strange effects. Things like breathlessness remain. The small little things, but they're not what your typical feeling after being ill. You know what I mean?
Do you know what? Well, we took the dog for a walk to the park on the weekend, and we sort of bumped into, at a social distance bumping into, but a friend, in fact, my son's friend's mother, same school, and she's a doctor, and she said she used to run regularly, and now she said she literally used to do 10K quite regularly, and now she's struggling to get to 3.5K. She had COVID. She obviously had COVID a few weeks back. And she says, really odd. I do feel restricted in my breathing. And so everything else feels okay. But you do, like you said, because there's lack of oxygen, you do feel a bit tired. So it is, and I mean, looking at it from of course, it's brand new. So we need to do more analysis of this and more diagnostic testing. I suppose we've talked about this before in regards to Polarean, that their tech would be, excellent at looking at the after effects of this, because there are, and now it's like you said, anecdotal, but there's lots of it going on. Lots of people are suffering this, longer than normal. It's not like a cold or flu where once it's gone, it's gone. You have a lasting effect, don't you?
It's definitely look, my case is too early. I'm not, and plus I don't find it's not. It's not debilitating. Hopefully it'll go away in time and all that. But my point being is it's definitely there has been a change. And my kind of recovery is typical of the average COVID patient as opposed to the more serious, right? Mm-hmm. But I guess there is a large group between the two, between the serious and the average. Do you see what I mean? And that group of patients, I can actually now see how, if this lingers slightly worse, let's say they had it slightly worse and it lingers slightly longer or more, or the effects are more pronounced, that starts to get worrying. You can see how people are worried and need. And that is well established now. It's not just me inventing it based on my own, experience. It's well established that there is a large group of people that have, pretty debilitating long COVID effects, and that's why long COVID is kind of a new area that we've all heard about it. But it's an area that will be properly investigated, and a lot of people are starting to look at it, including, you're right, Polarean is a good example of a company. We saw that article, I think it was on the BBC website that it first appeared, about the Oxford team looking at long COVID using Polarean's technology, and they are seeing things. I mean, it's early days still, but they are uncovering certain elements, certainly using Polarean's tech. That was the gist of that article, is that they're using Polarean's scan technique. They could see distinct differences in long COVID patients, or patients that are suffering from some form of long COVID lungs, as compared to existing techniques, which is great. I mean, that's great. That's exactly what we need. We need new technologies like Polarean's technology that help in that space. But most importantly is that we need to identify what the problems are. Why do these patients continue to suffer from the condition? And it seems there might be some structural impacts on the lung. I think there's some, the early work on this has shown that the people who have some, debilitation, or longer term disability associated with COVID is related to the vasculature impacts on the lung of the virus. So microembolisms in the lung, and that seems, that's one avenue of work that's being done. So it's interesting. Look, it's all interesting. I can say, there is always, in anything new, some concern for the average person. But I'd say it's that group between the average person and the real people that were hospitalized. Obviously, those people. Actually, something that's interesting there is there seems to be a trend, and we don't know yet why, as with patients being readmitted after. So they go to hospital, they have a pretty bad situation, but they get discharged, and then they're being readmitted. So that's like a far more severe form of long COVID. And then, unfortunately, they die on readmission. So this is a new. It's early days on that, and we'll see in time what that all means. Yeah. But for someone to get discharged after being in hospital, they're cleared, if you like. Obviously, there could be a situation there where the hospitals are overwhelmed right now. So maybe you have to tease all those things apart, and it'll be some time before we do. But nevertheless, they're discharged. They return home. They get ill again, so clearly a more severe form of long COVID, and then they're readmitted in a far more serious condition. So, anyways, all these things are still to be worked on. Companies like Polarean are working on it.
Yeah. And that Polarean wasn't the company we were going to talk about, but hey. Okay. So you covered it several times before. Cambridge Cognition. First of all, explain what they sort of do, what area they're in. I mean, it's sort of a little bit of a hint in the title there, but and then we'll go into the news today, if you could.
Yeah, so basically what they do is they help pharmaceutical companies in their clinical trials. And it's pharmaceutical companies that have drugs that impact cognition, right? So, one big area, for example, is Alzheimer's disease. Any kind of, neurodegenerative disorder that involves the brain, you need to assess how patients respond to these drugs, right? So what you're trying to do is often slow down the process, right, of a neurodegenerative disorder. So with a drug, for example. So you're helping the pharmaceutical company assess these patients. And in their case, that's what they do. They have different types of software and services around that, built around those pieces of software that help assess cognition for these patients for pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so that's what they do.
Yeah.
It's a pretty hot area right now. There's more and more drugs in the pipeline, and pharmaceutical companies are looking for better ways and more remote ways of assessing their patients using these types of software. So basically, my point being is they're in a good place right now, an area that's growing very quickly. They are specifically currently under COVID very helpful to these pharma companies because a lot of these clinical trials are being done more and more remotely, right? So patients need to be assessed at home. So they have this, they have those services that allow pharma companies to do that with more ease. So that's another driver. So the sector itself is hot. The COVID impacts on the sector help as a tailwind. And it's coming through in their numbers, and that's why I want to bring it up again today. Look, I'm a holder of this stock. I love it. I've been, a long-term supporter of it, and they've been delivering over the. We've mentioned it several times on this podcast. They've been delivering. If you look at the stock price performance, I think you and I discussed it at around the 50p level, maybe even earlier at the 30p level, and time and time again, the company just keeps delivering. The key stage that they're at right now is they've had a restructuring, if you like, about a year and a half ago, where they, kind of there were some management changes. You look at the stock chart, it tells you everything. They had a stock price collapse because they profit warned. And the problem was then that they were, I think, putting too much emphasis on development and not enough emphasis on commercial rollout. Well, that's what the new team did. They put all their emphasis on commercial rollout, cut costs on development, and all that's coming through. The hope was that it would come through, and it's now coming through. So today's trading statement just supports that further. Their revenues grew 34% year on year. And the most important bit there is that, in spite of the cost cuts, revenue is growing at a pretty high level. So, it's still early days on that revenue growth. They're up. I think they did in this trading statement, they did 6.74 or near 7 million sterling compared to 5 and something last year. So, good growth, but still from a small base. But again, it's all in the valuation, right? The market, I think, is finally starting to appreciate, hey, this company is actually, compared to its peers, quite a low-risk play and growing substantially. And then the most important bit is the order book is pretty big. It's unprecedented. They've doubled their order book. So some of it is a backlog because of COVID, but nevertheless, they think they have visibility in the order book. This is contracted orders on 6 million for next year. So they have all year to build on that and add incremental revenues. So, you can expect that double-digit growth to sustain itself for some time, at least through 2021 and probably 2022. Companies going, from strength to strength in profitability too. So that's the other thing. I think they did 2 million plus in losses last year, the year before last year. So the trading statement was for year ending December 2020. So sorry, in 2019 they made 2.2 million in losses, and in 2020 they cut down to 400,000. So on a run rate basis, they must be profitable right now. They're moving into profitability surely. So you can see that if you do another year of 34% growth or something like that, and the order book supports that, right? Because they can already see the entire year's revenue, like for like. If you had 6 million in revenue, they can see for next year at a minimum, and they've just done 6.75 million, right? So that's really strong visibility, because if you stack more revenues during the year on top of that, you can pretty much see the 30% growth again. Okay, so my point being is all that starts to now flow. A lot more of it starts to flow through to the bottom line, and I always use this comparator in this particular case. Ixico is a perfect example of what happens when you shift into profitability. The operational gearing kicks in, and then plus the contracts start getting bigger as well. So the next 2 years, certainly the next year and the next maybe 2 or 3 years of this company is where you see that big uplift in valuation, because the company is delivering and is a proper cash generative business. Plus, they have a good strong cash position. They went from something like, I don't know, half a million in cash to 3 million in cash. You know, they raised some money earlier, or about a year ago, I think, but they're adding to that. So now, you know, the cash generation is starting to come through. So great time to be buying a business. I mean, you know, you and I discuss always, it's always hard to buy on spikes. But then we said that about Cambridge Cognition at 50p, and I think we said it at 35p.
Well, do you know what?
It's now 82p this morning.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? You came on in June of 2020. In fact, 30th of June. Where's that? There's a chart there, and it just spiked up on news. And I said, I like it. I looked through it. I didn't, and the fun of it, I liked it. Chart-wise, I was overcooked, really hot. The RSI relative strength was up at sort of 85, which is like over 70 is regarded as overbought. But a share price needs to get above 70 to start moving, really. But then once you get 85, it doesn't hang around up there. So I said, I'll let it cool down, and maybe I'll have a look. So it went sideways, or came back down, it went 45 pence, came down to like 35. I obviously took my eye off the ball there. I didn't look. I should have gone in then, because now, like, it went from 35 pence, now it's up to 80 pence. So, that's one I've missed out on there, and I like it. But so there's a market cap. Is around about, what is it? 20?
So it's like 25 million.
Is that all? That's okay.
Yeah, it's still it's a tiddler that's delivering. You know what I mean? So, like, if you look at the revenues, they seem, compared to bigger companies, they're small, but they're growing at 30% per annum, and there's visibility on that being sustained at least for the next year. It starts to become meaningful. Ixigo is worth twice as much, by the way. So another company I love, and I'm a holder of that company too. But Ixigo is worth twice as much. It's a very similar business. They're not competitors. They're in very different areas, but very similar size business. It's a CRO. It helps pharma companies in a similar way in another area of neuroscience. Okay, so but my point being is Ixigo, I'd say, is a year ahead of this company, and it's worth twice as much. So today, even Ixigo is worth 45 million. I think it hit a peak of 60 million market cap on revenues of, I think, 9.5. So this one's at roughly 6.75, just moving into profitability, just like Ixigo did a year ago. You know what I mean? Before their last year trading. So you can see the pattern emerging. So if anyone who's interested in Ixigo, if they want to find another Ixigo, here's a good example. In fact, it's almost the perfect example because it's on AIM and it's going through the same process. So that's why I still like it, because at 25, I can see it moving into profitability, maybe doing 9 million at some point, in the not too distant future, 9-10 million in revenues. It's possible for this company. They can achieve that,
Yeah. Cool. Marvelous stuff. COG is a ticker there. Check it out. But it's risen quite a bit today as well, 20% per day. So it's, again, I keep looking at this at the wrong time when it's too hot. But
you're right, though, about the relative strength. You're right. I get that. So, it's always hard to buy on the day on a spike. But it's one to keep an eye on to buy on the dips. Yeah,
absolutely. Marvelous stuff. Thanks for that, Vadim, and speak to you next week.
Thanks, Justin.
The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite.
And joining me on the podcast right now is Glen Goodman. He is the crypto trader. He's written a book and everything. It's a good thing there. So how many pages in the book, Glen?
You've caught me on the hop there, Justin. Don't know, 250, 300, something like that.
No,
it's wide spacing.
No, it's not.
Big font.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you exactly. Okay, 237. Oh,
Is that all?
That's chapter 16. And finally, in my early years as a TV reporter, I was the guy they'd call on to do the and finally stories.
I was.
If there's a dog who would bark sausages or a ghost spotted on the A406, could guarantee I'd be there.
I did that story about the ghost on the A406. It was a classic.
I was beaten up by a 4-year-old kung fu master. I danced with the cast, The Lord of the Rings. I tried to snog the veteran pop group Bananarama.
I did.
Which they handled. Did you actually kiss any of them?
I kind of set it up so that I was like, you've got to pretend that we're kind of like in a relationship. I know that sounds a bit odd for a TV interview, but I had this grand vision of a kind of little comedy sketch I was going to make, which I did. So I didn't actually.
You see, news guys should never do that, comedy sketches.
We did kind of hug and kiss a little.
Yeah, but should they? News guys should not leave the comedy to the comedians.
No, you see, I was the exception to that.
No, they all say that.
The boss of ITN, the head of the whole place. The head of ITV News said, I'm putting a ban on everybody doing comedy in their and finallys because it's always cringeworthy, apart from Glen Goodman. Yeah, he singled me out in this speech
and of
as
course,
one person who had a special dispensation, like a kind of Queen's, what do you call that thing, when the Queen, by royal appointment. Yeah,
but
suck on that.
No, exactly. And the head of ITV News would know exactly what good comedy is, wouldn't he? God.
He would.
Even ITV didn't know what good comedy is, let alone the head of news. That's wow. That's just leave it. It's always cringeworthy.
You're wrong.
Anyway, listen.
I'll send you some of my greatest hits sometime.
No,
will split your sides.
Why didn't they give you a comedy show off the back of that? They want a spin-off. Glenn from News, he's so funny. We give him a comedy show on ITV. That'd have been the kiss of death there, because I think the one thing that's been half funny on ITV, and that was Harry Hill stuff. I suppose some of that, but some people didn't like that. But I mean, it's quite that was quite a departure for ITV. That Harry Hill TV bit.
Right.
Anyway,
yeah, you're right. No, TV Burt was brilliant because, like you say, it was different. It felt like
I say it's a departure,
like alternative comedy, didn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It was a departure for
for
ITV. Yeah, it was a departure for ITV because it never do anything funny. So, including the news guys.
No.
Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin then, Glenn. It's amazing how quiet it's gone. Now it's just stopped rising like a rocket, isn't it? It's like
Bitcon, more like I call it.
Saying that, the charts are going okay. It hasn't really dropped that much. It's consolidating, isn't it? 36,000. Yeah. It's looking all right.
The price is just staying within a trading range. I actually bought Ethereum yesterday. I didn't put this on my Twitter because it happened late in the day and I had a stop order in to buy Ethereum.
Come on, Glenn. That's not transparent, is it?
It's not. Well, I mean,
anyone can say that after a rise. I bought Ethereum, actually. I didn't put it on the thing. It's risen now. It's risen now by quite a few percent. But, I bought it just at the right time. I didn't actually tell anyone about it. I'm good after the trade.
This is actually what it's funny you say that, because this is why I haven't tweeted it for exactly that reason, because I thought people would just go, oh yeah, it's easy for him tweeting after the fact. I occasionally get people telling me off if I tweet after the fact. You gotta flag it up beforehand, and I did.
Of course, because otherwise there's a con mention to that. Have you seen that couple on that's hilarious, on Instagram? I think it was. There was a couple on there.
Yeah, I know you're going to say the ones who say you should buy things that go up.
Yeah, and someone says, if ever I've seen a bubble, this is it. Basically, the guy there, American couple, the guy there in a baseball cap and a sort of American football top or something, he said, people think trading is hard. Listen, this is what I do, okay? Buy a stock here, and it goes up, it goes up, it goes up, and when it stops going up, I sell it. So, wow. That's you've written 236 pages, Glenn, right? That's what you need to write.
It's true, because I'm a trend follower, so that actually is my philosophy. That was the silly thing, was that everybody's sending that around saying, look at this idiot, he's clearly a sign that it's the top of the market, like you're saying. But the reality is that that's actually a pretty great strategy.
No, but he said
religiously.
Yeah, but
it's the selling when it stops going up that is the magic part of that formula. Because what everybody does is they buy stuff and then they say it will never stop going up, and I'm going to keep buying more of it on dips. That's what usually happens. That's what everybody does, and that's how they lose all their money. Whereas this guy is saying, I buy it while it's going up, and then when it stops going up, I sell it. So he might actually do all right, and he might survive the next crash.
No, hang on a second. A very simplistic view of it, because it's all relative. When you buy stock down there, you don't know it's going to keep going up. And you may as well just say, listen, the best advice I can ever give you investing, buy low, sell high. Okay?
Yeah.
Get on with it. But you think, hang on, how do you know what's low compared to, it may go lower, So,
exactly. That's why you buy stocks when they're going up. That's momentum strategy, isn't it?
But they may stop. How do you know
it's
when
already going up?
No, but how do you know it hasn't already got to the top?
Well, if it stops going up, he sells it. That's the point.
But what I'm saying is, he could be buying it, and then literally it just rolls over. It looks like it's going to... If you look at the last big move in Bitcoin, for example, before it rolled to the side, it was, a big shoot up. Where's it by Bitcoin? So that big shoot up, and then all of a sudden it rolled over. So the last couple of two days were big rises. And I suppose how much you leverage you're taking on, but, generally, you're not going to go in... Well, it depends how many points, pounds on the point you're going, but from 35 to 40, is that enough to make you rich, that movement? Because then it started rolling over.
It could be, depending on how much you put into it, I suppose.
It's be early, isn't it? What are you saying? Just get in early, as long as it's the right one. But,
it depends what timescale you're talking about and stuff. I mean, obviously, that's just one sentence. We don't know whether he buys short-term trends and then sells them when they end, or whether he would have bought Bitcoin at, $5,000 and then just kept holding it ever since because he's in it for the long-term trends and is waiting for the long-term trend to bend. Because if that's what he did, then he'd still be waiting, because on a daily chart, it still doesn't really look like Bitcoin has ended its long-term bull run yet.
Yeah. The thing is, a lot of people think it's that easy, but it is from a distance. Like I said, buy low, sell high. But when you've got your money in the market, emotions switch on, and that's the hard part. Being distant and saying, "Well, that's my money in there." That's the hard bit, and it's never that easy. If it's that easy, why is he? I don't understand. What are they getting out of that? He says he's not getting any out of it at all. But what are they obviously selling something? Are they, or what? Or just want to get? What are they doing? I don't understand.
I don't know. I just saw that same clip that you did. I don't know what their shtick is.
And that's the trouble. Most people won't dig into it. They'll probably just take him as is and say, okay, that sounds quite easy. I could do that. I'll just follow these guys. And is it a case of just pump and dump merchants, or what? What do they do? I don't know.
I don't know what they do, but who knows? Like I say, if he actually follows that prescription that he said in that one sentence, he might actually be okay. But all the people that follow him won't. This is the difference. What they'll do, they'll hear what he says. Oh, I buy things when they're going up, and then I sell them when they stop going up. But what everybody will do, which is what they always do, is do the buying bit, but then they won't do the selling bit, because they will not want to face the pain of taking the loss or of losing a large chunk of their profits. So they'll just hold on in the desperate hope that it will go back up again. But, eventually, I don't know how soon, but eventually, of course, this bull market will come to an end, and we'll probably have another 85%, 90% decline like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies had last time. And then all those people will lose nearly all their money. But that guy, the beardy guy and his girlfriend, hopefully they'll hold on to their money, because they will have sold at some point, not necessarily at the very top, but at least when they start to get the firm conviction that it's rolled over, then they will sell. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Like I said, I've only heard that one sentence he said, like you have. I don't know his entire philosophy. That probably is the sum total of his entire philosophy, though. Let's face it.
Yeah, I think they're selling something. Because they're saying their system is good, so it's easy. So anyway, what's happening with?
They're selling hope. They're selling a dream, Justin.
Well, one man's dream and hope is another man's scam. That's what they're doing. It's a lot of scams have been cloaked in the disguise of hope and dreams and riches.
They all are. QAnon. QAnon. That's a good example of that.
What's happening in the world of crypto, Glenn? Anything exciting happening?
Just people constantly pumping. Like, it's really getting on my nerves.
It's always happened, isn't it?
I hate crypto Twitter. It's just full of smug people going, look how much money we're making in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And hold on, sounds like me, doesn't it? This is my life.
Hasn't that always happened? There's always been rampers.
Saying, look how much money you can make, and the price of Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million, and this, that, and the other. And now they're all pumping Ethereum. I notice everybody's going on about how wonderful Ethereum is on my crypto Twitter feed today. And no doubt, once Ethereum's been pumped a bit and everybody's made some money on that, they'll start going on about some other cryptocurrency. It's going to take over the world. It's all just speculation. This is market speculation. Pure and simple.
What's the difference then between investing and trading? Is it just time frame? Is it also it's time frame, isn't it, and fundamentals?
Yeah.
So longer time investors pay more attention to the fundamentals, and they spend longer in a stock, and traders just lazy, look at charts as well.
Exactly, but the problem with cryptocurrencies is that usually they don't have much in the way of fundamentals because they don't have profits and they don't have revenues. So all you have is the
biggest
hope
scam in their history, aren't they?
Everybody will be using that particular cryptocurrency. That's what you have. Though you could argue that even for long-term investors in stocks and shares, you're still just hoping for a bright future, because ultimately all you have to rest on is the current profits and revenues, and any forecasts about future profits and revenues are really just speculation, maybe informed speculation, but still highly speculative. And particularly once you start looking more than 2 or 3 years out, you get into the realms of dreaming really about what that company will be in the future. So people talk about discounting future revenue streams and that kind of thing.
But is it a dream?
Ultimately, it's just guesswork. It's just kind of
no, it's not. It's not.
Yeah,
if a company,
nobody knows the future. Did you know COVID was going to come along and mess up?
Hang on, Glenn. Hang on.
Travel industry. Did you know?
That's what they called. Hang on, that's what they call a black swan event. But if a company is rolling out stores, for example, or it's got a product,
no.
It's got a product that someone wants, or service that someone wants, and so we've won now, say 10 clients in the last year and 10 clients the year before, and the way it's going, we are getting a bigger market share. Then you can safely say, and their product's getting better, and they're better than their competitors. It's you could say they can, because you got some confidence in that, but you can't predict black swan events like a pandemic. No, of course you can't.
All right. Well, first of all,
but let me ask you a question about crypto. Let me ask you about crypto. No. You know a pandemic's going to happen, of course, but do you know when it's going to happen? Like once every 100 years. It's hard to predict that.
That's the point. You can't talk about an investment in a company as this is almost certainly going to work when there are so many uncertain factors about the industry.
No, but I'd have a better chance betting on a company with a planned outcome over the next 5 years than I would pinpointing the next pandemic.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that. But I guess I'm trying to draw a comparison with cryptocurrencies because, again, the cryptocurrencies, certainly the major ones, there is a plan behind all of them.
Yeah, let me ask you that then, right? So when this DeFi and all this stuff, when does that future start that people are talking about?
Well, the DeFi future has already kind of begun, hasn't it? Which is exciting. It's still, at pretty early stages, but it's... Even though it's sort of a relatively early stage, the decentralized finance market, it could be a game changer. And in fact, one person who said that is a game changer is Mark Cuban, who you might have heard of, billionaire investor who...
He's been on the podcast.
Has he?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's been on your podcast, Mark Cuban.
Yeah, for 1,000 episode 1,000... We asked him, and he said yes. And he came on. Nice guy.
Cool. The guy who owns the NBA's Dallas
Yeah, he's on Shark Tank as well. I watched. Yeah. All good.
Wow, that's great that he came on the podcast. I shouldn't sound so surprised, should I? Because obviously you're
on it, then. You're on it every week.
You're a luminary in the finance industry, so why would he? Why wouldn't he agree?
No, let's be honest. He's a busy man. He's a billionaire, and he's worth about $4 billion. I think, and he owns a basketball team, lots of businesses. In fact, he's the big gun on the Shark Tank. He's got the most money, and he often, if someone are messing around, he'll often just make an offer and say, "Listen, I'll do it," and undercut the others, or just wipe out the others, which I quite like because he's got big money. And I dread to think how many businesses he's got his fingers in now, though, because literally every episode he's invested in one, pretty much. So I think, how do you keep a track on
how much hands-on help?
Well, none.
Investors can really give. Yeah, exactly, none. So what's the point? They will always they'll be like, I want Mark Cuban. I think he's the guy to guide my business. Yeah, well, good luck with that because he won't have time to guide.
He'll probably say to them, listen, I can do 2 sort of personal appearances a year. So book him in. So if you're going to launch for a product, make them count. If you're launching your product, I'll come along. And we'll get something going there. And if you need some help with finance, maybe, or some more funds, I can help you. But... apart from that, don't keep nagging me and bothering me because I'm quite busy, yeah? and your company is not going to make a big difference. It's not going to move the meter as far as my company is concerned. So, there we are.
Well, as Cuban's your bosom buddy, do you want to hear what he had to say then about decentralized finance? So he says Bitcoin is just like any stock. Its price is driven by supply and demand. Yes, I agree with that, Mr. Cuban. And then he talks about how decentralized finance could change how the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market behaves. He says, I do think that DeFi could change what drives Bitcoin in a variety of ways, but it's too early, like Justin said, it's too early for it to be a significant impact. So, that's all he said about it, but he's clearly saying that it could have an interesting future ahead of it. And I'm reading between the lines, but I'm guessing he says that because decentralized finance is a clever way of we've talked about this before on the podcast of people lending to other people. It's like peer-to-peer lending. It's like the website Zopa in a way. Zopa has been around in the UK for about 15 years now. It's a platform that enables ordinary people to lend to other ordinary people and make quite a decent return, especially compared to the interest rates you'd get in a bank, though obviously there is some risk involved of default from these small borrowers that you're lending to. But so far in the history of Zopa and other such sites, people have got a pretty good return on their money. The risk is just something to look out for the future. Now, decentralized finance using cryptocurrencies is kind of similar to that, though a sort of more sophisticated version, I suppose you'd say. And many people think that the sort of main coins of decentralized finance could be the ones to look out for in the future. And no doubt, I have no doubt whatsoever that after everybody gets bored of pumping Ethereum, they will start pumping the DeFi coins as well.
But isn't most... I can hear myself coming out of your speakers. You got no headphones on, Glenn?
No, I've got no headphones on, Justin.
That is so unprofessional, Glenn.
Well, I did a podcast yesterday, a different one. Sorry, I know that's a bit
what's that to do with it?
But I did a different podcast yesterday, and I didn't have headphones, and nobody said anything. So I thought,
they're idiots. Who are? Don't even mention them. I can hear my voice coming out of your speakers. It's called reverb. I don't know who that podcast is. They sound very optimal. But listen,
have you been able to hear my voice for the entire thing?
I can hear your voice. I can hear my voice coming out of your speakers.
Your voice. Have you been able to hear your voice through it since
the beginning
of this podcast?
No, a little bit. I wonder what it was. If there was an echo, then I heard it's my voice.
Sorry.
I don't mind it. It sounds very good.
Yeah. We need more of you, more echoes.
Let me ask you a question. Isn't most, I don't know if you know the answer to this actually, isn't most DeFi coins, whatever they are, or networks, based on Ethereum?
Some are, but there's also there are other platforms that you can base DeFi coins on, and Polkadot is a well-known one. I'm just doing a.
Do you know KR1? I often have KR1 on the podcast, and they've done really.
Yeah, I know them.
They've done really well with Polkadot. They've made loads of money. Yeah, because they're early.
Why didn't I get into that one really early? That would have been lovely.
Yeah.
I made some money on Polkadot, but yeah, if they got into it early, if they were early investors, KR1, then yeah, they will be extrememly rich now.
And they made about. Look, I think they put in about a big chunk as well at the start for a bigger than the average private investor would anyway. And they made. KR1 has 60 million market cap now. Wow. But listen, update on revenue. So they're getting revenue from that, right? Of hang on, $800,000. So they're generated further. Wow, hang on. So they netted the company a total of just under $1 million in 2020. So $1 million of revenue they've got from Polkadot. It's a staking thing, isn't it? It's like a yield, basically. The more you have.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so that's how much they're getting back. So they're doing very well.
Well, anyway, Polkadot is being talked about as a potential Ethereum killer. If a lot of DeFi projects if more and more of them start using Polkadot, which is expected by some in the industry, then yeah, it could possibly eclipse Ethereum at some point.
I should have got into that earlier. I should listen to the guys at KR1 because they're really into it. They're really into all their stuff. They know what. So what's the market cap of Polkadot? Market cap Polkadot. Is that compared to Ethereum? Coin market cap prices. Polkadot volume. Circulating supply was market cap 15 Is that million? Is that all? Really?
Hold on, let me have a look. Coin market cap. That can't be right. It must be billion, isn't it? Hold on.
Oh, yeah, maybe it is.
Dot. Polkadot.
Oh no, 15 billion. Yeah, sorry. Wow, it's not a lot.
15 million.
It's honest.
15 billion.
Yeah. Sorry, it's the fourth one down. Right. Yeah. So it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, Polkadot. I didn't realise how well I'd done, and then Ripple below that. Cardano, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Chainlink, Stellar. Top 10.
Yeah. So Polkadot is currently number 3 in the world after Bitcoin and Ethereum.
But it's still a tenth of the value of Ethereum, isn't it? So,
yeah, that's true. So there's a long way to go. So is possible if Polkadot were to become as popular as Ethereum, then its market cap would have to 10 times from this point.
Maybe next rollover, I'll buy some. If they're going to roll over, are they going to roll over or not? We've got 2 minutes left. Is crypto going to crash at some point, or now has it got too much support in the market? Too many instos.
I would say with almost certainty that it will crash at some point. Yeah, don't know exactly when, which is why I'm still on board with Ethereum and in and out on a few other cryptocurrencies as well, including, you know, I'd even be willing to get back into Bitcoin if I saw a nice chart pattern forming. This is round about where I sold, in fact, where we are now. It's just ever since I sold, when was it? A couple of weeks ago, or a week or so ago. Ever since I sold, it's been sort of oscillating around about the point that I sold. So it looks like there might be a nice bullish chart pattern forming, and if it continues to form nicely then and breaks out, then I may well get back into Bitcoin. But for the meantime, as I say, I'm in Ethereum and in and out of a few other things, and there will be a crash at some point because there always is, and it will be bad, and there probably will be a loss of 85% value on most of the cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, because that's what's always happened in the past, and not just to Bitcoin, but to every asset that is ever ramped and got people excited. And, you know, look, the thing that people forget about crashes, market crashes, is that even though they're inevitable after a big boom, because that's human nature, everyone gets excited and then everybody gets the opposite of excited. They get really pissed off with whatever it is. Even though all of that happens, you get a wonderful kind of legacy from every boom. It happened with the dot-com boom. Tons of money was poured into the tech industry, and we saw the fallout from that in companies like Amazon taking over the world, you know, and Google and so on. So, you know, there was a positive outcome for that industry. Likewise, even with the railway boom in the 19th century, when everyone went crazy about railway stocks and bought them all up, you know, they were ramped up and then they crashed really badly, but you're left with a legacy of railways all over the world, particularly America, which was fantastic. And it's even the same with the tulip bubble. You know, the tulip bubble, the Dutch one, everybody talks about, people were paying fortunes for Dutch tulip bulbs in the 17th century. Wasn't that crazy? Yes, it was crazy. But after the tulip bubble burst, where is the center of the world flower industry now? Where is it? It's Holland, isn't it? So you see, you can have a positive legacy even after a boom and a crash.
Thanks, Glenn. Speak next week.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, it's time for the top 5 most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours. They are at 5. Remote monitored systems down 7.4%, 2.5. At 4, Argo Blockchain. It's up 2.22%, 92 pence. At 3, Extract Resources down 10%, 7.7. At 2, Oriole Resources down 1.75% to 1.4. And at 1, it's Supply Atme Capital, down 5% to 0.49 pence, I should say. Okay, top 5 most read RNSs are as follows. Tullow Energy, Ministry update on 100 megawatt tender. At 4, Iron Ridge Resources, exceptional lithium scoping study results, Ghana. At 3, Oriole Resources, statement reads share price movement. At 2, Varex patent status update. And at 1, seemingly boring title to an RNS, but most read, is Supply Atme Capital change of accounting reference date. Oh yes, you changed that date just to slip it into the year end. That's it for the podcast. Thanks for listening. Muchos apreciados.
The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.